Imagine that the shaitan becomes your qareen. That's scary. That should scare us. فَكَانَ لَهُ قَرِينٌ. And when does this happen? This happens when we remove the protection of the remembrance of Allah. Specifically, and first line of defense is salah, is prayer. If you remove prayer, you are defenseless on this battlefield. Absolutely defenseless. And that's how we can become owned by the shaitan, by the nafs, which is now a beast that we have fed. So we seek protection from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from being among those who lose salah, being among those who are not consistent in salah, and that we actually are among those who find success through salah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, in Surah Al-Mu'minun, قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ. And Allah describes who are they? الَّذِينَ هُمْ فِي صَلَاتِهِمْ خَاشِعُونَ. They are those who are in their prayers, they have khushu'ah. And then Allah goes on and describes a whole list of descriptions in the beginning of Surah Al-Mu'minun of who are the successful. And then He again repeats. So He starts with they have khushu' and salah, they are focused in the prayer. And then He goes back and He says da'imun. He repeats the salah again and He says that they are consistent in prayer. Okay, subhanakallah wa bihamdak, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Let's leave some time for questions now, inshallah. And if anyone online wants to ask a question, go ahead and do so on the chat. Yes?
So you are describing weakness. The root cause of weakness is the love of dunya and the hate of that. For me, love of dunya is in my head. Okay, so what I'm understanding. Okay, I'm praying, I'm reciting Quran, I'm thinking I'm doing everything right, but that doesn't stop me from loving what is around me or how I want to live my life. But no matter how I'm doing it, when it comes to death, right? When it comes to that fear of death, I'm always thinking about what will happen if I die? What will happen to my kids? Right? So it's not like I'm afraid to die, but I'm afraid of what will happen to them.
Yep. Okay, so I'll repeat her question. Her question is regarding the hadith about wahan and how about this is the root cause of weakness. We mentioned hubb ad-dunya wa karahiyatul maut, the love of dunya and the hatred of death. She said that, she can do all these deeds, like try her best to be a good believer and to worship Allah, but, no matter what, she still fears death, especially because what's going to happen to her children. The fear of what's going to happen to our children. So a few things here. First of all, there is a natural apprehension when it comes to death, because it is, we don't know, like, am I going to be successful? Am I going to, is Allah going to be pleased with me? That's natural. And of course there is a natural fear about our children. But I will tell you that the more that we build something called tawakkul, the more that we build something called trust in Allah, the less we fear afraid of all the things we can't control. This is another deep topic, but many of us have an illusion of control. What does that mean? It means we think we're in control. We think, but it's an illusion. We think that it's because of our actions that things are safe. We think that it's because of our efforts that we're getting results. We think, and it's actually an illusion. And so if we are in that illusion of control, then of course we're going to be afraid to be taken out of the picture. because we're under the illusion that we're the ones protecting our children, that we're the ones providing for our children. And that's an illusion. We're not. We're not. We're not. We're not the ones protecting our children. Yes, we have to do our part. We're going to be asked about that. But ultimately, you can do every single thing in your power. And for example, your child still gets sick. But I did everything wrong. I did everything right. But I did everything right. For example, maybe you get pregnant and you're like, you read every book. One of those. you read every book. And you ate all the organic food, and you stayed away from all the things you weren't gonna, you were like a pregnant, strict, very strict, pregnant Nazi. And then you give birth, and your child has special needs. Like, but what? But why, Allah? But I did everything right. Do you understand? Yes. Do not get me wrong. We have to do our effort because it's worship. Because it's part of our worship. We're commanded to do our effort. Tie your camel and put your trust in Allah. It's part of our worship. But don't think we control these outcomes. We are not the ones keeping our children safe. We are not the ones keeping our children healthy. We're not in control. Allah is. And if we have the illusion that we are, we will be terrified of ever dropping a ball. Are you one of those? You know what I'm saying? It's like you're one of those jugglers who's like, if I make a mistake, the world will end. See that? It's an illusion. It's an illusion. By the way, it comes from childhood. That's another discussion. If you watch some of the earlier halaqas, I talk about it. It's actually a trauma response from a childhood that was an environment that was out of control or was very unpredictable, where you had to be perfect or you saw the consequence. And so you actually wired your nervous system to something called perfectionism. Perfectionism doesn't mean that you just like to get it good. No, perfectionism means you believe that if you're not perfect, something terrible will happen. That if you're not perfect, you won't be safe. That the world will end. This actually was wired in childhood. It was a defense response. It's a survival mechanism. It's a trauma response. So what we have to do is, we have to learn to unlearn these things. We have to rewire. We have to relearn that I'm not in control. You know what the cure? La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. La hawla, there is no change in state. Wa la quwwa, and there is no strength or power. Here's the illa that we talked about. Illa billah, except by Allah. I would advise you to focus on la ilaha, to focus on la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Repeating it and focusing on its meaning. And ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help you to rely on Him, not on yourself. Because that fear that you described means you're relying on yourself. It means you're relying on yourself to take care of your kids. Not to mean that you don't have to take care of your kids. You're relying on yourself ultimately to protect your children, to provide for your children. When ultimately, la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. That actually all strength and all power and everything only is from Allah. It's not from my efforts. It's not from me. That's a deception. It is an illusion of control. I'll tell you something else that's pretty deep about when you have an issue with control. Oftentimes people who have an issue with control also have a problem feeling their feelings. They don't like to feel uncomfortable. This is usually an avoidant person in terms of their emotions. So Oftentimes we want to control the situation so that I don't have to get disappointed, so that I don't have to feel bad, I don't have to feel sad, I don't have to feel scared. So sometimes it's also avoiding difficult emotions. So it's also work at feeling and finding safety in your own emotions. And that emotions are not weakness. Again, many halaqas that we talked about that, inshallah, you can look at those recordings. Any other questions? Yes, sister.
Mine is probably a very generic question as well. The khushu in our salah that you talked about.
Yes.
You know, we're all flawed.
Yes.
By the design, like by design, but not in the machine way that you said. We tend to
Get distracted.
get distracted
Yeah.
and almost like a robot, right? Like
Yes.
praying, 5 times of prayer just to get it done.
Yeah.
And many a times, like not in Ramadan, like Ramadan, it's easier to like have that, khushu and have that want to pray. But then during the regular days,
It's easy to get distracted. Yeah. Robotic. Yeah.
So like, and I've asked this question to so many, imams and other people, but like I want to know like how you encourage that.
Okay. So the question here about khushu'ah specifically, not just salah, but what about like focusing in prayer? So many of us, we're human, we get distracted. Maybe in Ramadan it's a little easier to focus, but regularly outside of Ramadan, it's easy to just kind of go through the motions and be robotic. How do we build our khushu'ah? So first of all, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not create us as angels. We're not going to be perfect. That means that our worship will not be perfect. Even the angels, there are angels who have been in sujood from the beginning of time till the end of time. And when the end of time comes, they say, we have not worshipped you enough. We've not worshipped you as you deserve, which is a fact. So we cannot worship or give to Allah as He deserves, right? Our worship will never be perfect or as He deserves. However, we try to do our best to improve and to do the best we can, like to work on it, okay? Work in progress. Khushu'ah is one of those things. How can we improve our khushu'ah? First of all, don't beat yourself up if you're not perfect. But second of all, try to improve your focus. What are some ways to do that? Absolutely the first way and the most important way is to try to understand what you're saying. Think about having a deep conversation with your best friend in a language you don't understand. And you're just reading a script. Are you going to be really into it? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're not even going to be present. Imagine you're reading from a teleprompter, but it's not in English. It's in a language you don't understand. You know when you can tell someone's reading from a teleprompter and it's really fake? Imagine they're reading something, they don't even understand what they're reading. Okay, think about that. At least we have to understand what we're saying to Allah if we want to have any type of focus, right? Now you say, but Arabic is not my first language. I get that. We can still understand, we can still learn the basic parts of the salah listen, 17 times a day at least, we say Surah Al-Fatiha. Can we not learn the meaning of those 7 ayahs? The answer is yes, we can. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. Okay? 7 ayat that we say 17 times a day, that's without any sunnah prayers. That's just fard. Can we not take the time? Like, think about it. Can we not take the time to just understand what those 7 ayahs are saying that we are saying for our entire life 17 times a day? Come on. Yes. You want to be able to focus, at least understand what you're saying. When we say Allahu Akbar, we say that several times in Salah. What are we saying? Go back and listen to the halaqah from last week and the week before to know what Allahu Akbar means. We had the whole halaqah about Allahu Akbar. In fact, we've had more than one. لِيُكَبِّرُ اللَّهِ. Remember last halaqah? لِيُكَبِّرَ Allah. In order to make Allahu Akbar in your life. Literally, we talked about that the entire halaqah. What does it mean when I say Allahu Akbar? Allah is greater. What does that mean? It means Allah is greater than everything. Allah is greater than whatever it is I'm thinking about.